All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr. More transfers to talk about. More transfers heading to Lexington, Kentucky to talk
Oh
about.
yeah.
So our original plan, we were all excited, like, hey, let's talk about our guy Mo D. Mo D, SEC guy. We already, come on, we're locked into Mo D all season long. Bully ball representative for
Player of the
Max Barr.
year.
Yeah, player of the year. Bully ball player of the year for Max Barr this
Yeah.
season in the SEC. And so we're getting ready to talk about him. And then what do you know? Another one for Mark Pope, as Jayden Quaintance is now officially heading to Lexington to play for the Kentucky Wildcats. And we decided, let's just go in reverse order here. Let's talk about the one everybody's talking about this morning, and we'll work our way back to our guy Mo D. But Max, Jayden Quaintance, obviously we're talking about a potential top 5, top 10
Yeah.
pick in the NBA draft next season. Played that year at Arizona State, was committed to Kentucky before John Calipari left for Arkansas. At the time, and we'll talk about some of the quotes here. ESPN had a good article on talking to Jaden's dad, and I think has some good quotes in there on that. But maybe it didn't make sense the last time around. This time around, it's the fit and kind of the opportunity that could be available for what is only a 17-year-old Max who now has a full year, almost a full year. We know we'll talk about the injury and such, missed the last 6 games of the season, but I mean, has a year of Big 12 playing experience under
Yeah.
his belt now as he gets ready to turn 18 this summer. And it wasn't just playing in the Big 12, it was, quite frankly, being one of the better players in the Big 12 in certain areas. And that was the most impressive part of this guy so far.
You remember what you were doing at 17, Blake?
I was not blocking shots in the Big 12
That's
against,
exactly what I was.
the likes of Houston, Kansas, and Baylor and all those teams. Texas Tech, I wasn't doing that. So,
I'll tell you what, I wasn't playing 40 minutes in an overtime game against Baylor in Big 12 play. I wasn't doing that, okay? You're talking a defensive freak, okay? Defensive freak that's playing 40, 36, 38, 37, 36 minutes a game in the physical Big 12. You're talking a 17-year-old with natural glass cleaning, block, rim protecting instincts with the maturity of staying out of foul trouble, Blake, that doesn't come around every so often. JQ, back to the Cats.
all right. So, again, a Big 12 all freshman season, was on the all defensive team, too.
Of course.
Averaged 9.3 points, 7.8 rebounds, 2.6 blocks, 29 minutes per game, as you said. A guy, volume wise, minutes were there. Wasn't just kind of easing into things. He was a dude right off the bat. ESPN does have, listing some of the other teams: Kansas, Ohio State, Auburn, USC, among the teams, obviously in the mix there, potentially. And he was the youngest player in college basketball last year, the youngest. And you think about all these accolades we're about to talk about with this guy. But I think it's important to sort of start again with some quotes. And I think, like I said, ESPN has a quote here from his dad. It's his quote, "We always liked Kentucky. He was committed there before John Calipari left for Arkansas. The reason we ended up at Arizona State. We were hoping they'd come back around and recruit him, but it didn't make sense for Coach Pope last time, trying to take on one of Cal's guys. But this time it felt like he really, wanted him to be there." And I'm going to fast forward to some other things that he mentions here, and we'll tie it into Max when I transition here to you talking about the injury. Kentucky presented us with a very detailed plan for how they plan on bringing Jaden back with the trainers and how they want to use him once he's healthy. The way they use their big men as offensive hubs, he really fits into that system. Jaden didn't want to go somewhere just where he'd just be a screener. Coach Pope made him feel really good. They went really deep on the analytics, going into things most coaches don't even think of. So, end quote. So, again, we talk about Mark Pope, the offensive element of the way he uses players in the offensive scheme. Obviously, you can apply that to some of the defensive things too, but the injury is going to be priority number one. And, when they can get him back, sounds like, according to his dad here, the surgery 6 months from that, March 19th was the date. So, maybe around the start of the season is what you're expecting there. But nonetheless, I think, again, when you got a guy that's skilled like this, no surprise that wanting to be a bigger part of things, and clearly Mark Pope, I think, from just the analytical side, is going to be able to use this guy in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's the gamble that the staff is taking here. You recognize the talent and the ability, and you're taking the gamble on coming off the ACL repair there. Now, obviously, Dad is going to, give him a great timetable to return. Being a little bit more. No, I don't think realistic is the word, because everyone responds differently to the ACLs. You can be Adrian Peterson, come back and lead the NFL in rushing, or you can take 2 full years and never really get going. Everyone responds differently, situation by situation basis here. But in my mind, personally, I'm saying back by SEC play, back to his, JQ being JQ by SEC play. Whether that's holding him out for November, easing him in December. Whether that's he's ready to go by November, he's responding quick. Rehab went fantastic. I think for like a pulse of the fan base, like, what are we expecting here? We're taking a gamble on a kid coming off the ACL. Me right now, I'm thinking you got him for SEC play, full go.
Well, and like we said, we'll see how it plays out
Right.
there, because obviously from his perspective, you're not going to rush anything like this. Again, knowing there is a bigger future in terms of looking at the NBA prospects and all this other stuff. And again, it's not a knock on Kentucky. You're committing to Kentucky to play for Kentucky, but it's just, I mean, as we said, this is a 17-year-old kid right now.
Yeah.
And you're not going to take any chances on any sort of significant long-term injury. No matter whether you're a draft pick or not, like, you're not going to take that kind of chance. So it'll be interesting to see what that time frame looks like as we get closer to the season, and all those things. But really, when you do just look at the game itself, as we said, I mean, this is a guy that we mentioned, just the defensive accolades already, racking them up against some really good offensive teams too, in the Big 12. And that's where, like, as we have a little more time to study him, it will be fun to kind of go through and look at, okay, against some of those great offensive teams, let's see how he's, switching on, defensive assignments and all these other things. And I think that's where, like, the versatility of how he can guard for his size is just that there's not a lot of guys out there like that. And especially in the SEC, we always say, like, where you got a lot of ball screens, you got a lot of sort of, hey, kind of, I can take you off the dribble, can you take me off the dribble, like all those kind of things. Like, he meets those, expectations of what you expect in those kind of one-on-one scenarios, but also just within the, the switching and the wingspan, obviously going to be talked about, 7'5" wingspan. I mean, my goodness, you can't teach that.
Like Tugler.
Yeah, so you're talking about a guy who I think just the size and the ability, you don't see a lot of guys like this that can do the things that he can, and that's why I know Kentucky fans were so excited the first time around to say, all right, like, this guy's a game changer. But, as we said, even coming off the injury, I think it's still okay to be optimistic and say, hey, he's still a game changer. Like, he's still a guy that's going to be able to come out and do these same kind of things. Yes, we'll see how the rehab goes and all that, but, on paper, though, it is, if you're a Kentucky fan, you should be very excited to finally get this guy in Lexington.
Think about that versatility by playing Mo D and Quaintance as the 4-5. You're switching everything without a care in the world. They can guard anyone, any size, both of them. It's just the defensive versatility for Kentucky just within the last 24 hours might have just shot up to number 1 in the nation by nailing down JQ and Mo D. Now, let me give you a little bit of a reference for how good of a rim protector Quaintance is. We all are familiar with Amari Williams, and he just kept getting better and better and better throughout that season. It's just incredible from game 1 to the last game how much better Amari Williams got. Amari Williams' block rate was 6.1%. He was the best rim protector for Kentucky. There was a huge difference on and off the court for Kentucky defensively when Amari was out from when he was on. 6.1% for Amari, 9.6 for Quaintance. That was 19th in the nation. Okay? So, by the numbers, now I know he's going to be coming off an injury, he's younger, SEC, big step up, all that. Amari was seasoned vet with Defensive Player of the Year awards racked up. But just by the numbers, the potential, this could be one of the best rim protectors Kentucky's seen in a good time.
Well, and I think what's exciting too is the offensive development's going to come, and because
Right.
he's younger, the offensive development, and you can say, all right, well, look at the percentages. We just break it down by percentages last year, right? 52.5%. I mean, a lot of those are probably closer type shots, and I'm sure we could find the shot chart somewhere to see where every shot came from, but. That's where, okay, sure, he's not a great free throw shooter. Wasn't last season. 3-point shots. He wasn't afraid to step out and take the threes. 6 of 32. That's 19%. Certainly, that's not where you're expecting him to take a, three on every other possession or anything. But you do know, though, that this is a guy who is continuing to develop his skills and those kind of things. And so I think it is going to be kind of fun to be like, hey, can he develop this next evolution of his game on the offensive side and keep doing those things? Because and that's why I've always said I'm so high on Mark Pope now, is because he puts his guys in the best position offensively that you could ask for to have a chance to thrive according to what your skills are. And that's where a guy like this, hey, you're always trying to add that next little thing because you are looking ahead and being like, okay, look, my future is as a top 10, top 5 draft pick. Well, these are the kind of things that I got to keep kind of adding to my game. And that's where I think your confidence level in Mark Pope should be very high for someone like this because you're just thinking, okay, he's going to put me in the best position to succeed. Maybe there are some elements offensively that he can continue to add to my game that are only going to help me. It's going to help Kentucky. It's going to help me in the future. And so I know I have all the defensive things kind of figured out. If it's like I say that, like, this kid's 17, and it does feel like he's got all the defensive things figured out. But, the development process for guys that are this young and, as we said, are looked at as sort of the next big thing, I'm always kind of fascinated by that because it's such a big part. Like, these guys are talented, but what's that extra 1% in this area or that area? What are they going to get out of them as a staff? And that's where we brought up the analytics. Mark Pope sitting there like, hey, come on. I see this percentage here and this percentage there. We're going all in on this or that. So,
also, I just want to put this as kind of a cap on it. You got to also remember how important an off season is for young kids like this.
Yeah.
Maybe I listed off the incredible. I don't know how he's able to stay on the floor that long, but 40-minute games, 38-minute games, 37-minute games in November. December, if he's playing, probably not going to be 37 minutes a game.
Right.
Right. He's going to take a little bit of time to get him in, but we're talking here like SEC play February, where he should have his groove back. Now you're talking like, okay, but you got to understand, like we've been, saying, 17-year-old coming off an ACL, give him a little bit of a buffer.
Yep. Agreed. I just want to know. First game he steps out on the court, Max. Mark Pope, if you're out there, if you're watching, I just want to know, what's the first play call? Like, what are we running to get this guy either an open shot or just a dunk right off the bat? Because I know Mark Pope's he got something ready. He's drawing it up right now. Because I think he's going to get this guy a lot of good shots, and I think it's going to work out well for the Cats. So.
Could you imagine the crowd pop at Rupp Arena? Jayden Quaintance enters the game, first time all season, bangs a three, top of the key.
Have a little ball screen, and you're thinking he's going to roll to the basket? No.
Nope.
He's just going to pop out to the corner. We're just going to throw it to him, and everybody stands up, and they're waiting, and all of a sudden, whoo, bang. Bang. There you go.
Yep.
Jayden Quaintance to Kentucky. Our thoughts, we'll obviously have a lot more thoughts on, again, not just Kentucky, because we still got to do a Mo D video, but all the other transfers in SEC basketball will have you covered here at Southeastern 16. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, turn on your notifications so you know when we have our next videos or live shows out. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Let us know your thoughts on another big edition for the Cats, and we'll talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16.